All right, guys, Dave Duford here at Duford Insurance Group, where I train and recruit agents nationally to sell final expense Medicare and annuities face-to-face and over the phone. Thank you so much. You've joined me on my live stream. My Q&A live stream I do live on the YouTubes every once in a while. That is specifically geared and designed to answer your questions about anything related to insurance sales and marketing. So thanks so much for being here. So here's how this segment's going to work. You're going to ask me questions, you're going to post them in the chat, and I'm going to give you all of the answers that you need. And this can be anything related to insurance sales. If you're interested in my agency, great. If not, that's fine too. But if you just have general questions about marketing, sales, leads, etc., I'm happy to give you my unadulterated, unfiltered opinion on all of the above. And all you need to do is just simply use the chat to describe what it is exactly that you're interested in talking about, and I will be happy to reply in return. So just jump in, put your chat out there when you can. Special hello to everybody that's jumped in a little bit early. I don't know if Annie's okay, John. That's always the question, isn't it? Nobody knows what John's talking about. Ain't that the truth? So very good. So I'm going to let the questions load up into the chat, and then I'm going to actually start off the conversation, the talk here, with a little bit of conversation about a familiar friend in the business, or familiar face in the business, and that is Primerica. Primerica is an interesting company, and for some people represents what they least like about the business, the opinion, other people's opinion, that Primerica runs a large multi-level marketing type of operation. I wouldn't call it a pyramid scheme. It's quite a legal company, but likes to recruit a lot of people en masse, and a lot of people seemingly don't like that. So what I'm going to show on the screen here, see if I can actually just minimize my screen and then possibly show it to you, is a little bit about a report that came out that I found interesting, that more or less compounds upon some of the problems that I think are manifest in this business, and kind of tell you a lot about how the business actually works. So what you're seeing on the screen here is a report from the Insurance Forum. It's a good place to go for insurance information about Primerica's quarterly report on some of its business operation. And Primerica recruits 90,000 people and issues 90,000 policies. So basically, for every new recruit, the company produced one application per head. Now, if you read into it, it's a little bit more detailed than that. But it's kind of interesting, right? Like, Primerica is known as a mass recruiter. That's what people would say about the company. And if you look at the ratio of recruits to the number of agents that sell, it's a very low ratio, as commonly is the case. Now, also interestingly enough, you would think 90,000 recruits were licensed agents by kind of a surface level review, but out of the 90,000 recruited, only 10,000, as the report indicates, actually got their insurance license. So that means only 10,000 of them wrote policies. And what did the other 90 or 80,000 people do that didn't get their license? Kind of leads you to think, what is that exactly going on with this type of recruiting focused strategy, where very few people actually A, end up getting licensed, and B, writing any business. So, and I reference this because, this business, if you're new to insurance sales and you really kind of are finding your way around it, the business of insurance sales is not what it looks like on the surface. There is a lot of effort put on selling the blue sky, selling the dream, but very little substantive effort on putting together the actual steps necessary to be successful. That's part of the reason why I'm even the least bit successful on YouTube that I am, is because I decided not to talk about the hype. Instead, I talked about the structure, the substance of how to be successful, and it's panned out pretty well for me. So my advice to you guys that are new to this business and are looking around, and you're doing your due diligence, maybe you haven't gotten licensed yet, or you're thinking about it, perhaps you're joining an agency and it's not what you thought it was going to be, or at least what was promised, you should do some serious soul searching here. Because if you join the wrong agency and you don't get proper training, you don't get proper support, you're not in a position to be well trained and prepared to do battle when it comes to go seeing people and getting results, and you're not running a blueprint of success that you believe in, you're squandering one of the best opportunities, I think, that an entrepreneur has, and that's within the insurance sales business, because you're at the right business, I think. I think this business is fantastic. That's just the problem is that finding the right organization is absolutely critical. And if you join the wrong agency and your beliefs aren't in alignment with what the agency believes, there's not really much fixing that. You're just going to experience problems. And you're going to be a statistic like most of these agents. Cody Askins talks about this a lot, the 8% nation concept, which, is it 90%, 95%? Give or take, I don't know exactly, but the vast majority of agents do fail pretty quickly in this business for a host of reasons, one of which is a bad agency selection. So think about the 90,000 people that came to Primerica inside of 3 months, with only 10,000 of them actually becoming licensed. That should concern you on some level, because every single person that comes to this business should be licensed, and they should be selling insurance with proper training, a proper plan of action, and coaching as well. So too many people fail this business because they're told lies, frankly, is what it comes down to. So just thought I figured I'd show you that. It's quite revealing on some levels. Take it for what you will. So let's jump in here, and I'm going to start taking questions from the chat. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining. As you guys know, if you've ever been on one of these Q&A calls, it takes me a while to get through some of these questions. I'm not the most abbreviated person that there is. I tend to go into extreme detail. So if I get backlogged a little bit on your question, I promise I'll get to it. So as you join in here and as you watch, just simply throw out into the chat your question. I promise I'll get to it. And again, please like this. If you haven't, please hit the like button. That is going to get this video shown to more insurance agents, both live and if you're watching the recording of this. This kind of content just isn't mainstream, I think, and it needs to be, because a lot of people get into this business under false pretenses, and they need to know the other side of the story that their MLM Kool-Aid drinking dispenser is not telling them. So, Revolution, hey, what's up? Do you have a local sales agent in the Chicago area? I would consider paying that person for a ride-along. I have maybe one or two. If you want to send me an email, I can see if he's up to it. I can't promise it, but there might be an opportunity to do that. Just shoot me an email. Dave, was Annie ever okay? I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about, John. John is an agent in my agency that I just don't understand, and I probably never will. And as Chris says, nobody knows what he's talking about. Pretty much the case. All right. I am waiting for the haters segment. I'm sorry, this month I have 0 haters. Usually there's a few haters here and there that give me a good laugh and a hard time, and it's good content for the live stream, but I'm sorry, if you're here for the hater segment, I just don't have any. I don't know why. Maybe I should say some more hateful things to get some hateful responses. But this, unfortunately, this time around ain't the case. So back to the phones, Chris, with you. All right. Humble Warrior, hi. What do you suggest someone who is new to insurance do when choosing which type of company to work with? Should they work with multiple companies? So I'm of the persuasion that you should take your time finding an agency. The worst, it's like marriage. Like, you probably shouldn't jump in the bed with the first significant other potential person you see, right? You may want to feel them out a little bit before you pop the question. Kind of feel the same way within the insurance business. You probably shouldn't jump into the first opportunity you see, because it's likely you don't understand the full perspective. And Humble Warrior, obviously you're aware enough that you don't know everything enough to ask that question, so that's good. That means you're open-minded to taking your time to maybe look through this a little thoroughly. So my suggestion is to interview with multiple agencies. You want to ask them what's their driving force, what matters to them, what are they looking to accomplish, what are their values, how do they find prospects, where do they stand in contrast to other agencies, what is commissions like, How do their lead and marketing programs work? Who is going to train you, and what are they going to train you on? Is it selling insurance, or is it recruiting people to recruit others to recruit people, right? So what you got to discover in this due diligence process is which organization is going to be best fit for you. And that's not always clear, right? Unless you know this stuff going in, but commonly you don't. You're kind of just figuring it out as you go. So I think programs like mine, other YouTube channels as well that talk about doing your due diligence and taking your time are important to research to get a better perspective. Because what you really want to try as best as possible, it's not always possible to do this, but you should try. You should try to think about the first choice of an agency you join as being your last choice that you'll ever do. One of the worst things you can do is get into a position where you have to feel like you got to jump around to find the best agency, where you jump around every 6 months. You got to move contracts and hassle with that. Then you got to make a new relationship that you don't know the person. Can you really even trust them? It's better to do your due diligence and find the perfect match, one that can last for the foreseeable future. So that means you got to slow things down a little bit, but it's okay. This business isn't going anywhere. But your belief in yourself to do this business might go away if you pick the wrong agency and you become, how do you say, jaded with the business. You know, that it's a racket. All it is an excuse to sell and make profit off of leads, like a lot of people think. And I think it's just a joke. That's a terrible tragedy because this is an excellent business to be in. But you got to take your time to find the right setup. So make sure I answer that specifically. Do your due diligence. I wouldn't suggest working with multiple companies. I think going all in on what it is that you believe in is a great strategy. I think kind of spreading yourself out between, especially as a new agent, between different agencies, you're going to get competing views and competing opinions, and that's going to lead to some confusion. I think if you find somebody you trust, you like, you feel is a good fit for you, why wouldn't you go all in with them? Especially if they allow you to have a release. There's a provision that if things don't turn out the way you thought it would, that there's an exit strategy to leave. I think that's the best way to approach a situation like this. So with that said, as long as they'll do that, what's the reason why you wouldn't do all your business with that organization? So there's my not so brief answer. Hey, Austin, what are the best type of leads for final expense? I think that for face-to-face, the best lead is a direct mail type of lead, fresh and exclusive, not aged and used. So that's what I would choose first and foremost if I can. Now, I also like the idea of self-generating your own digital leads using, say, Facebook, some kind of course. Bobby V is a course that I would recommend. If you could do David Duford and $2.50 into YouTube, you'll see the video I did with him. He's got a great course that's reasonably priced. It's not like ridiculously overpriced like some of these people's courses are, and it teaches you good content. And doing your own leads cuts out the middleman, but understand it also requires you to take on a new skill set, and that's managing your money to manage a marketing program. And you can never like set and forget it like the George Foreman grill. You have to tweak these things constantly and make it work and fix and drop loser ads and retool the winners and let them ride. And there's a bit of a strategy involved there. But it does pay, and it does work well for those who really stick at it. And you don't pay nearly as much. And the problem with Facebook vendors I have seen buying leads from Facebook vendors is there's no quality control anymore. You don't really know what you're getting. Is it a good lead? Is it a bad lead? What did the lead say? What is the intent of the person filling the lead form out? Do they think it's life insurance? Do they think it's Uncle Sugar life insurance, right? Like, who knows, right? And spend enough money, you'll get frustrated with it. So what we've been teaching our agents is as a second option for face-to-face, generate your own Facebook leads. And as a first option for telesales, generate your own Facebook leads. We're looking into possibly putting some courses together to generate leads on Google, where there's a higher search intent. You know, when you're on Facebook, you're just goofing off, wasting time, and you happen to run across an ad and you click on it. Whereas with Google ad, or Google search, at least you have an intent to try to find information about that particular topic. So there's usually a little bit more interest, I guess you could say. So I'm looking to put together a course with Bobby to promote, to diversify some effort into that space. Frankly, too, as an aside, there's very little agents doing Google, whereas 90% of agents seemingly are inside of Facebook and doing ads there. So that's kind of where our main primary focus is direct mail face-to-face, and then digital ads self-generated for telesales for final expense. Hey, Steve, are you still high on data lots? Not really. I mean, I guess they're okay. Some people do okay with them, but I've not really promoted them much. Agents aren't really using them much. We're kind of in a beta test stage to test out some TV leads and some other inbound digital sources of leads. The TV lead program, unfortunately, went belly up because all the big call centers bid up the volume to the point where independent agents couldn't monetize or justify the cost for them. So unfortunately, that kind of went away. But we're trying out some different sources, so we'll kind of see. Stay tuned. Since the 80s, we don't know if she's okay. All right. Thank you for help. You're welcome, April. No problem. Hey, Doug, what's going on? Thanks for being here. Hey, David. Planning to be licensed in the first part of October. Realistically, how much capital do I need to get started on a part-time basis? To me, what I tell my agents is $1,500 to $2,000 is what you need a month to support yourself on a part-time basis. Basically $400, maybe $500 a week. And that should be enough on most part-time bases to stay as busy as you need to. So not all up front, but weekly $400 to $500 for a month. You should be comfortable risking that much. However, the truth is that you'll know if this business is for you in a week or two as you get out there and start selling. If you're 2 weeks into this and you're making the calls, you've studied and you've done everything possible and you're not making sales, you're probably not going to invest any more of your leads. So the real risk factor is even less than that $1,500, $2,000 recommendation part-time. You should be making sales in your first week if you are going to have any long-term effect or long-term success in this business. That's what I tell my recruits, that the people who are successful in this business make sales pretty quickly. And the people who never are successful never made sales. Why would they risk any more of their money in something not working for them? And that's a good thing. It's a quick turnaround type of business where you should be getting some results. Oh, Smooth Criminal? Yeah, I figured he was talking about that. I worked for Primerica in the mid-90s. Okay, hey, David. It's cool, man. Back in the, A.L. Williams was Primerica really at the late 80s, early 90s. I recommend, guys, if you like this business, you're serious about it, want to know the history about it, one of my favorite books I've read in the business is Coach by Art Williams, and it talks about his rise, I think, starting as a coach in high school, seeing his father die and mom only have a whole life plan when he could have had term insurance, and that inspiring his crusade, as he called it, to sell the benefits of term. A.L. Williams upended this business and really morphed it from a permanent insurance business to a term, temporary policy business where 80% of the business now is term. And it's a really fun story to read, despite your opinion of the man. Some people love him, some people hate him. It's really just incredible to see how much he recruited and how much he had an impact on the business. And people like, I don't know if Dave Ramsey worked for Primerica at one point. He certainly believes in the buy term and invest the difference philosophy. So it kind of permeates throughout the insurance business for sure. It's a good read, and it's really written in his voice, so it's kind of a fun read. Definitely check it out. Let's see what else here. Jane, hey Jane, I have a health and life license and Medicare and long-term care licenses, but I haven't sold insurance for quite a while, but I'm thinking about getting back into it. What would be a good place to start if you want to only sell online? So, there's a lot of agencies that focus in telesales. There's Jason Final Expense is a content producer here on YouTube that's very good. Of course, we at Duford Insurance Group help agents sell, not so much online, but telesales. I also did an interview with a gentleman who, his name is Anthony Boba. He also teaches agents how to sell final expense over the phone. He's very good at it. So the key thing is make sure that you join an agency that has a specialization in telesales, that has some history in selling over the phone and supports it. You don't want to join an agency that's really enormous but has no interest in the actual nuances of a telesale strategy. So, again, do your due diligence, find a place to land. There's quite a bit out of there. If you'd like to send me a message, I can give you direct references to the organizations I mentioned as well as mine too. All right. Hey, Brad. All I see is here's a comment from the hater. I'm just kidding, Brad. If you hear this, just giving a hard time. All I see is a long ad that I can't fast forward. Then I reload the stream and I have to start over. I think you should start. It should start live if you're watching this live, and then you have to fast forward for or rewind for anything you missed. But yes, I monetize. I'm making money everywhere, every possible chance I get. I'm squeezing every last penny out of all the stuff that I've built. So I'm sorry. Hey, Kim, I'm in Indiana, but I need to mentor. Yeah, hey, if you want to check out what we have to offer, davidduford.com. Click the FAQ section. There's a resource guide that's really helpful if you want to kind of get more of an idea of how we work and see if it's a good fit for you. Chylin, thoughts on joining SelectQuote? I think it's fine. I think it's really good to join a company like SelectQuote or Assurance if you just don't have the capital or the risk tolerance to invest in leads. You can learn the business from them and have the leads provided, albeit at a really low commission contract. And then if you're comfortable enough, then maybe make the jump and then buy your own leads and get out there and do the thing yourself. So that is something that is a strategy that some people employ and get good results with. My take on it is if you have the ability to invest in the leads and you've got the risk tolerance to take a chance on yourself, I think the upside potential is so much higher to just do it on your own. But that's not appropriate for everybody. So we all kind of have to find our way in this business. But that is something I've made recommendations in the past because simply they don't require you to buy leads. There's some people who want to do this business but can't afford the leads, right? So it's a fine alternative. Mark, hey David, how do you think the current COVID situation going in the fall and winter will affect face-to-face final expense agents and Medicare sales? And do you think agents will start to move to phone sales? Great question. I'm glad you brought this up. So, it's been really an interesting ride with the insurance business. And I thank God, seriously, that I am in this particular segment because the people who are most affected by COVID are our market. And our market is not prepared to deal with final expenses. And there's this weird dichotomy that's happened that when there's this infection risk and potential of death, and it's been, told constantly in the news and on, every platform online, whether you think it's legit or not or where you stand on it's not the point, but people are influenced to think about dying because of it. And naturally, they're inclined to seek us out and have us help them. Case in point, it's been strange. The end of the year 2020 saw a 9% increase in final expense sales across like 25 major carriers. It's kind of a litmus test to the interest in the business. Whereas they looked at I think it was LIMRA or some organization looked at pre-need, which is more of a funeral home insurance plan. And I think they lost 20%. There was a 20% reduction in total sales. Like that's just terrible. Similar product, but final expense grew. And that's even with March and April last year was really tough for the face-to-face agent and tough for the business in general. And last year I grew more in the final expense business than any other year in my career in the last 10 years. So I say all of this to suggest the following. I don't think with this Delta strain or Lambda or Zeta or Alpha Omega strain, whatever it is it's going to be, I don't think that's going to change the underlying fundamentals of our business. People need to be insured. If they're scared about dying, they're going to want what we have to sell them that much more. And I will argue, it's anecdotal. I noticed this about this time last year, that people just were kind of fatigued with the whole social distancing mask stuff. And they got to the point where, yes, they were concerned, but they would still see you as long as you kept a distance, wore a mask, if they even cared about that at all. Now, there was some divide. You would see more of that in small town America, rural America, and less of that in the metro area. Kind of like politics. It's the divide, same old stuff. But business got done, and I haven't heard in the longest time a sincere complaint that COVID is preventing them from being successful as a face-to-face agent. So if COVID gets worse and things get tightened up again, will this affect our business in a negative way? I don't think so. I don't think people are going to be willing to like stop their lives again like they did the first time around. Will this help the telesale side of the business? Absolutely. There are some people who are going to be scared by this stuff and more inclined to doing it all over the phone. COVID set off really a big trend towards the telesale side of the business, and I don't think that's going to go away because it was already there, but the lockdowns really impressed upon that much more. Either way, you win. We're in a business, guys, where people need our help. And the nature of this pandemic and the things around it just means that many more people are going to want to buy from us, okay? This is the perfect time to be in insurance sales because of the pandemic. And the crazy thing is, on top of this, top of mind awareness that a pandemic gives about dying and being sick, is that you've got the whole baby boomer socioeconomic trend happening with 11,000 people retiring a day for the next 10 years. People needing help with Medicare. The average insurance agent's 59, 60 years old. They're not going to be around for long. And if you're a young agent getting into this, this is the best opportunity to do this despite all that's happening. You really, guys, you really should be thankful that you even discovered this opportunity because so much of Main Street is getting hammered. Could you imagine owning a restaurant right now and for the past year and a half, or looking into the fall and winter and having to possibly shut down again and deal with all these mandates and frustrating stuff? You don't have that with this business. It's so much better. And the key is to make sure you give yourself the best chances of success. So no, long story short, no, Mark, I think if anything, it's going to just get better, face-to-face or over the phone. And the key is just to giving yourself the best chances of success so you can realize the opportunity that's really here. Let's see here. Getting way behind. Okay, whoa. Okay. Petey, I'm looking to potentially do this part-time. Is it feasible to schedule business calls before and after typically working hours such as 7 a.m. to 8:30 and also 5 p.m. to 8:30? Probably not 7A to 8:30A, but definitely after 5 to 9 is possible. Now, if you're doing it over the phone, and if you don't live on the West Coast, I would call into the West Coast and try to work later hours. You know, you could call at 10 or 11 at night and still do calls in California if you live in the Eastern time zones, right? But if you had to do it face-to-face, sure. I've had agents do that for many years part-time, and it definitely works. The key is just to do a couple of days during the week, not just one or two, you know, so you have more time to go out there. Please describe your leads discount program. So I have an optional discount program for Medicare Advantage. It's only for Medicare Advantage. It's not really a discount lead program. It is how could you describe it, as a lead credit program. So for each Medicare Advantage sale that you make, we'll reduce your cost for your Medicare Advantage leads by $75. So if you're really productive, you'll have little to no cost, but it does require you to be captive with us on the Medicare side for 5 years. You got to do all your Medicare business with us. And the reason we do this is because we're paying for your leads, and we don't break even on your lead investment from our overrides till, it depends on which businesses or carriers you're right, but like a year and a half to 2.5 years in. And we don't want to pay for an agent's leads and then they leave and then roll the book of business, and it doesn't make any economic sense. So it's an optional program. If you do Medicare with us, you don't have to do it. But people who do it love it, because the biggest impediment to doing Medicare is cash flow. It costs a lot of money to find a lead and close it, and there's very little left over first year. But if you can do it consistently and get through that and work 3 to 5 years, it's possible to have 1,000 Medicare plans on the books and have a residual near $300,000 a year in passive annual income for life. It's incredible. Is it true that you risk having a much lower persistency with telesales versus in-person sales? I used to think that, and I think that's true if you're a one-carrier strategy. There's a big, this is a rumor, I can't validate this as true, but there is a big organization that some of you would recognize if I mentioned their name, that sold one product, still does, that 70% of the business, 30% of the business they would write would lapse within the first month or not take because it got rated up or declined, or the client went elsewhere. And then of that remaining 70% of that would still be on the books after a year. So only half the business they wrote would stick, okay? And I think that is in part because the product was overpriced. There's not a lot of underwriting selection to choose from, and the agents didn't have a selection of options to give them better choices. And so when you do that, and another agent comes in behind you over the phone or in person and offers something better, you're going to get replaced. So I think it comes back more to the original issue is, I think as an agent, it's better, you have a better chance of better quality of business with a spread of different options so that you can maximize the quality of coverage and the pricing so that your clients get the best combination price and coverage. Otherwise, you're leaving this gaping hole open for somebody else to come in and replace you, as what commonly happens with this agency, and a lot of others too. So this is always the danger in pushing a high-priced product. Some of you guys out there, you know who I'm talking to, you're selling for a company that incentivizes you for a certain carrier. They pay you more for it than the others. Anybody can guess what I'm talking about? But what they don't tell you is the amount of chargebacks that you get writing that carrier. Why? Because it's easily replaceable, and it's a gimmick. Once the client knows what it's about, is also easily replaceable. So these are the problems in this business that is not relegated to telesales or face-to-face. It's a structural problem that if you sell in a way that's not conducive to helping your client get the best deal, you're going to get replaced and you're going to get burned. I wonder if they are just appointment setting. I don't know what you mean by that, but if you can clarify, I'll try to help answer. El Mayo. Hey, Cyber Shocker. I'm currently employed for AIL, but I have an uncle who works for Freedom Equity Group and wants to show me about the agency. Are you more likely to see if you have family involved? So my dad, let me tell you a quick story about myself. I hope I don't bore you. I have this really weird upbringing. My mom and dad divorced when I was 3. I have a mindset of a lower middle class person. That's kind of how I think. That's how I was raised. But my dad kind of left me. I didn't know him much when I was a kid. We don't really have much of a relationship, unfortunately, these days for other reasons. But little did I know, my dad was building an enormous business in the chemical business. He had, I think, like 250, 500 employees nationwide. He sold out at 48 for millions and millions of dollars to Ecolab and retired a millionaire in his 40s. And after a couple divorces and some bad real estate deals, I lost a good bit of it. I don't know how much, none of my business. But all of this is to say this. The one thing my dad told me, I said, Dad, give me one piece of advice. This is when I was starting my personal training business, 15 years ago. As far as running a business, if you could tell me one thing, what would it be? And he said, Dave, never hire friends or family. And it turns out Dad, throughout his career, his business, he fired his wife twice, 2 times. He fired his stepdaughter, who stole money from the business. He fired his stepson. He fired, I think, his father-in-law. The only person I think he didn't fire that was family was me, but that's because I never worked there. So it's kind of a funny thing. I don't work like the way my wife and I's working relationship is I always tell people who ask, it's like I separate business from pleasure. Like, this is my business, my wife is my pleasure. And she's kind of that, I run ideas past her, and she'll tell me if I'm stupid for an idea, and she has helped me out in ways, but not like on a daily basis. And I used to believe that should be the norm, but I'm like old enough to realize we're all kind of different. There's some of you out there that probably do fine working with your spouse, but I guess it's probably just my experience with my dad and seeing what he went through and potential of ruining relationships that I just don't like hiring friends or family. I keep it separate. Feelings get mixed in, and relationships get damaged. You guys know how money hurts relationships. So for me personally, I just separate the two. So I don't know what the answer is, man. I mean, maybe it will, maybe it won't. But for me, I wouldn't. That's all I can attest to. I wouldn't do it. That's why we like you details. Yeah, plenty of it, Korea. Hey, Thor, John is referring to Smooth Criminal. Okay, you got it. Yeah, I know what it's about. I just thought he had some other catch that I wasn't getting. Raymond, hey, Hey Dave, I'm currently taking my pre-licensing courses for life and health. Any tips for studying or taking the final exam as far as studying? Practice the test questions, have those printed out, make sure you can answer those pretty well. If you can pass the practice exam, the state exam, is pretty easy to pass. And I think all you have to have is a 70%, so it's not too bad. How soon should I be implementing a lead strategy? Oh, wow, look at all the viewers. Thanks for being here, guys. And please make sure that you give this a thumbs up if you haven't. Pretty please, please, please. This, when you do that, it tells YouTube that you like this content. And then YouTube says, hey, maybe we should show this to people who have viewed insurance sales videos that might get them to watch this because it's good content. So people need to get more of this information. A lot of people are in their own bubble of their MLM. They don't ever have it burst or give a second opinion on things. So if you hit the like button, that helps a ton. So thanks in advance for doing so. Okay. How soon should I be implementing a lead strategy? Hey, Dan, yeah, so we were talking the other day. You should be thinking about it right when you submit your carrier contract. So once you get your contracting done and you start the onboarding, and this is advice for agents in my agency or elsewise, if you work for another agency, immediately as you're starting to onboard and understand the sales process, you should be reviewing the lead options you have as far as the turnaround time is and executing that strategy to time it by the time that you're sales ready. Usually 15 to 20 days is kind of what I look at. So yeah, definitely be doing it. I don't like State Farm due to their policies. I don't know much about State Farm. I had one, they're actually, for one thing I do know, and as far as final expense goes, man, they're one of the hardest to replace because you'll go around and people just like, it's like they're, you know, they have no brain. They're like, but the bundled savings, you know, but your insurance is overpriced, but there's a savings discount. And it's like, okay, bye. You know, so I always had low luck in replacing State Farm for final expense. I'm already licensed life and health, by the way. Okay, hey, cool. How many states should I start licensing in? So if you're doing telesales, I would just do 1 or 2. You're in New York, so I would do anything other than New York, right? So if you want to do Jersey, you like talking to people in the South, you may want to do that, or the Midwest. There's not really a wrong answer. Just don't sell in New York. Is it cheaper to get a life and health at once? Yeah, get it all the way. Hey, child, I didn't mean for the last statement to be read as a question. That's okay. I'm like, now I don't even know what your question was, so no worries. There's so many comments on here, I can't keep it up with all of them. Anton, I'm a newly licensed and want to focus on Medicare and final expense. I'm appointed with all carriers in my state with an FMO for all Medicare. Can I do FE? You sure can, yeah. If you just want to do final expense with me, that's absolutely fine. I was talking to a gentleman today that's with another agency on Medicare, and I told him, I said, hey, hope it goes well with you. If things change, I'd like to talk about Medicare, but in the meantime, if all you want to do through me is final expense and get advice on that, I can absolutely help you. Likewise, for those of you out there, maybe you're happy selling final expense and you want to look into Medicare, you absolutely should. We can help you with just the Medicare side without the obligation of you doing final expense. So if you don't want to upset the apple cart, we can help with just Medicare as well. Yeah, you're welcome, Humble, no problem. How about just joining you as a new agent? You can do that too. Do the whole thing. You can just, I don't know what your exact question is here. Sorry, there's a bit of a delay. I assume you can just join to sell final expense if you want to. That's fine. In fact, if you're a brand new agent, I prefer that you do one strategy versus a multitude. There's an important concept that I like to repeat. A reporter was talking to Bill Gates and Warren Buffett at a dinner. And the reporter asked, you know, what characteristic accounts for your, you know, high level of success? And both of them agreed that focus was the reason. They knew what they were good at, and they tripled down on what they were good at. Likewise, they knew what they weren't good at. If you watch a lot of Warren Buffett's videos or Charlie Munger videos, they're kind of partners with Berkshire Hathaway, they talk about just as much of what they know as what they don't know. They know what their limits are. And they stay away from where they don't know about and stick around and do as much as they can with what they do. So when you're new, you don't know anything. And trying to know everything all at once is an incredibly exponentially overwhelming experience. And remember, pros make everything look easy. And it kind of downplays the amount of commitment and focus it takes to be successful. So as a kind of a shortcut, you should do one thing to start with. I have a lot of agents that want to do final expense and Medicare. Generally speaking, if they're not financially independent, we start them with final expense, and then 6 to 12 months down the line, we then incorporate Medicare, because it takes that long to get consistent and confident that every week you can go out and pull money out and consistently make sales. And then when you jump on with another product line, that complicates matters, right? So I can't downplay it or make it as important as I can. It's really important that you do things the right way. And to me, that's why Medicare is an intermediate strategy, because final expense pays better up front, but longer term, I think Medicare is more lucrative because it's not only more significant income, it's less likely you have to work as much to get it, since it's generally a passive strategy. So 1 foot at a time, crawl, then walk, then run is kind of the strategy. And focusing on something to get really good at it before you start to implement other product sales. Schwab. Are mail order leads face-to-face hard to get with upcoming AEP? I think there's definitely an impact that you're going to see on response rates, because right now, probably throughout the rest of AEP, you're just going to get a rain of letters and postcards and junk mail from AEP and Medicare opportunities. That probably will suppress response rates a bit. In fact, in the past, I've done videos where I've said, hey, make sure that you diversify your lead flow, because it's likely that the attention is going to be drawn, at least in the direct mail space and the Medicare side of things. So maybe do some Facebook leads, aged leads, call your client book of leads, just in case things kind of slow down a little bit. So the end of the year, October to November, does kind of get dicey sometimes with lead vendors. So it's a good time to start thinking about this. A really good point you brought up. Thank you for that. Medicare Advantage, what do you want to know? With digital marketing programs like Bobby V's, will that be more intended for phone sales? Probably either or, although for phone sales, probably a bit more accessible. Just because there's no geographic restrictions. I think the pricing per lead is better when you have a larger area to draw leads from. So I think it's better for telesales, but it can absolutely do it face-to-face. What about YouTube leads? I think there are some untapped markets for lead opportunities. I can tell you this, guys, if you do some of you probably have seen it. I've got another channel called Fixed Income Help, and I put together some videos explaining like how True Stage life insurance works, Colonial Penn. And when we get call-ins from those leads, they're solid. They're ready to buy. And they're usually big cases too. But the thing is I think there's an opportunity on a paid basis to have video ads, to have Google ads of some sort. And there's frankly very few people that are actually doing anything in those spaces in our market to generate those leads. I kind of look at the Facebook space as there's just so many people doing Facebook, and it's just so saturated. It still works well though, but I'm trying to start to think ahead, and that's why we're looking at possibly developing a course to address that, because I like to zig when everybody else zags and try to stay ahead of the curve a little bit. But yeah, I think there's opportunity there. All right. Dave. Hey, Dave. It's Dave. What company could you be your first recommendation for a CRM that stays in contact with sold and unsold leads with Medicare and final expense? You could do Agent Autopilot or Set Show Sold, I think would be things that you can do. A lot of what you're describing too can be designed from the ground up on your side of things. For example, like what we're looking to design I've got a final expense call center, and I'm about to start a Medicare call center with some organic lead generation we're doing. And we've got a CRM, we use VanillaSoft, so it's predominantly an outbound caller and activity tracker. It does a good enough job, but you can incorporate things like Zapier into it where you can integrate other programs, other apps to do things that VanillaSoft alone couldn't do. For example, we're going to be integrating to send out newsletters, to send out educational letters, to integrate it to send out text messages once the lead is generated. So a lot of this stuff you have to piecemeal together. There isn't the perfect solution like we would all want, where you just buy it and it does everything that you want. I am finding that to do the kind of things that you want to do, you're going to have to kind of make it work and kind of figure the stuff out along the way is kind of what we're into. So yeah, so I would be looking at VanillaSoft Radius is another one that's good to do. You know, as far as newsletter list or emails that you can send out, you can integrate Zapier with MailChimp is one. Plenty of, you know, pretty much any major, you know, email software will do it. And I'm starting to go down this route in my call center because there's just so much saturation in the market, and you really have to differentiate yourself other than, now the call volume and doing the activity, that's 80 to 90% of this stuff. But I think there is an effort that's worthwhile in taking and doing some pre-sale stuff where you send some information via email or send text messages out to them, helping them kind of get to know you a little bit better, selling yourself, some pre-sale stuff, if you will, some sales conditioning, because most agents and agencies aren't doing that. So that's kind of where I'm going, and I'll report back kind of what I'm doing once I've got it set up, and I've kind of started the process. I should have it some stuff to report to you once I begin that process this upcoming month. Joseph, hey, are there any tools, apps, systems that you found to be super helpful in any area of life that you would recommend others to drive productivity? Sure. I like Calendly.com. That's what I incorporate all my Q&A calls with for agents interested in joining, and also one-on-one calls. I don't have to sit and schedule people in anymore. I just send them the link, and they follow it and self-schedule a time of their choosing. That's a big one. That's probably the biggest one that I use. I mentioned some of the other ones, the CRM system, some of the integrations that I use. That's probably about it. I mean, for you know, yeah, nothing really much more than that. This isn't that tech heavy of a business. It can be, and it's starting to get more so. But if you incorporate Calendly into setting appointments with your clients, which you could do with enough leads and a strategy dedicated to it, it could be helpful. Hey, I'm Such 87. I'm new. Recently got my life license. Is final expense a good area to get into? And I'm looking for Telesales only. Any recommendations? Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Final expense is a great gateway drug, as I like to call it, into the insurance world. It pays a decent first-year commission. It's easy to understand. It's a very activity-driven product. It's a great way to get going. Some people stay in it all their lives. Some people then eventually cross-sell other products as they get going into it and grow. Either or is a fine opportunity. As far as telesales organizations, I mentioned earlier, a couple, Jason Final Expense is good. Anthony Boba is another gentleman that's associated with me, does a fantastic job, has very good track record of success. And if you're interested, go to my website, go to the contact form, and I'll be happy to forward their information to you. And then I do telesales too, of course. Okay, I am with FFL and tired of working 6-month-old leads. Would like to join your organization but have too many contracts. Thanks, Gary. You can move those contracts. They will allow you to release. That's a big part of their pitch, and it's a good thing because why would you want to force an agent to work with you if it's not a good fit? So you should be able to move those over. They won't like it, but a promise is a promise, and they should be able to move those over. You probably don't have some carriers that I have that they don't have. So you probably, if worst case scenario, they wouldn't move you, could pick up some other ones. Like Trinity Life is a good one, Guarantee Trust Life. You can dual contract with AIG, so even if they wouldn't let you move it, you can set up another contract with them. They let you dual appoint. So usually if you're locked out of carriers or think you are, no worries. There's probably a lot of other options as well. Guys, please make sure, again, if you haven't already, and I'm sorry to annoy you about this, but it does help me out and helps a lot of people out. Please make sure you like this video if you've enjoyed this content. If you've just recently joined, hitting the like button shares this with more insurance agents. It gets it to more eyeballs across YouTube, that people who are in insurance business. Hopefully you think my content's helpful, and a lot of people I think need to hear it. So if you haven't hit the like button, please do so. I really appreciate it. Okay, Monica. Yeah, no problem, Monica. D. Goss, can you provide a link to or explain daily use of your CRM? I don't understand what you mean exactly by a link to or daily use of your CRM. If you want to shoot me an email, I can send you an overview of how it works, if that would help. Just go to davidduford.com/contact. Say, hey, it's me from the thing, and I was wanting to review your CRM. Just shoot me an email. I'll show you a video of it, and you can check it out that way. James, with pandemic, do you recommend final expense or whole life term side? Are there any companies that allow you to sell both? Yeah, plenty. Foresters, Transamerica, although I'd never sell for that company ever again. Don't ask me why. a lot Mutual of Omaha, plenty of others. But again, this gets back to that focus thing. I think it's better to focus on one product strategy. And with the pandemic, I do like final expense better, because with final expense, the one big advantage of selling final expense is our clients don't risk losing money because they lose a job. If the pandemic or if the economy turns south and people start losing employment, well, people still receive Social Security. They have with every depression since the Great Depression, okay? And when our seniors lose the ability to collect Social Security, disability, and retirement, guess what? I'm back in the bunker with my Patriot food supply, and I'll see you in a year or two after the Civil War is over, okay? So, like, I don't think that there is a huge risk to losing out this opportunity, which makes final expense, I think, a better product to sell. I've seen more stability in the ability to do business, where I've seen businesses like the mortgage market, mortgage loan market, the housing market, that just go up and down. There's really hot years, but then there's ice cold years. And with final expense, you don't have that undulation. It's very stable, it's very consistent, but it's consistently getting better because we have so many more old people now. They're aging into that age range, 60 and older, where they start thinking about this stuff seriously. And so that's also a big bulwark to this business for the next 20 years. What type of criminal background will not allow someone to get licensed to sell? Misdemeanors probably okay. I don't think that if you've got a felony, like, just think of the worst felonies you could do. Probably not going to get appointed. If you've done white-collar crime, like mismanaging assets or money or theft, probably not going to get appointed or get your license, I should say. But I have lots of agents who have DUIs, minor drug offenses, stuff like that, and it's no big deal. So it's the major stuff that gets an issue. You can always call up the Department of Insurance in your state to get some guidance on it, and they'll kind of tell you what to do. The key thing, whenever you're looking to get a license, you want to make sure that you call in, talk to the people, and ask, if I've got this record, how can I best present myself to you that you'll appoint you? Because it's a human process to be appointed. And if you can make a good story and a good case why you should be appointed, despite maybe a record that you're not proud about, then you might stand a chance. So being open-minded or open to it and being upfront about it, and that appointment process is, as I think, critical if there's something that's potentially an issue. But misdemeanor probably okay. Do I have an Illuminati shirt on? No, it's jiu-jitsu, man. This is Chattanooga Jiu-Jitsu. If you ever are in town, you want to roll a little bit with me, have a big 250-pound man sit on you, if you enjoy that kind of thing, come on down. I'd love to have you. So this is my work gear. This is one of the benefits of working from home. I wear what I want. All right. David, thanks for the advice on Select Quote. Sure, my feelings are exactly what you said. An easy way to get training in the med sup field and get comfortable, for sure, absolutely. M. Thor. Oh, man, I'm way behind on these questions. Oh, man, look at this. I thought I was going to get out of here in 10 minutes. I guess not. Why do you focus more on final expense, than mortgage protection? It's just because I got involved with final expense. I mean, it's not a favoritism thing. I mean, I've believed that final expense is better than mortgage protection. The policy sizes are bigger with mortgage protection, but the problem with mortgage protection is plentiful. First of all, if you really want a lot of lead flow, you're going to have to travel into multiple cities and possibly multiple states. It's very hard to get quality leads for mortgage protection. Second of all, mortgage protection is a nighttime job. You have to work when everybody else doesn't. It's all kitchen table work. And if you got a family and you like actually being around them, you're never going to be there, man. It's going to be gone 4 or 5 days a week. And that stuff is tough on marriages. It's tough on relationships, and it's just hard to manage. Also, it's a cyclical business. When I started in 2011, nobody was selling mortgage protection. It really didn't get hot again until 2015 when everything started to get back to normal again. So mortgage protection, the next time the housing market collapses and there's not a lot of bailouts to bail out everybody and eviction preventions, et cetera, like mortgage protection is going to dry up. If interest rates go back up and people stop buying, like it's going to suck. So I'd rather be in final expense because even though there's not the big ups, there's no big downs, but there's a steady up because the demographics are shifting to be older and more Americans are retiring with less money and are ill prepared. So that's why I've gone all in on the senior market, just because it's just obviously, to me, the market to be in with the financial opportunity and really the stability too. Okay, good question. Carrillo, do you recommend any agencies where I can dip my toes in the life and health industry and still do my cleaning biz since it is all of a sudden skyrocketing cycle and more handling? Oh, cool. Nice. Good for you. I mean, possibly mine. You can take a look at my offering. It's going to be hard otherwise to say. I mean, it depends on what you define as hand-holding. You know, some people are going to be, needing more help. I think my support structure is pretty good. I take your calls. I reply back to them. I'm passionate about helping people that want to be helped. I don't micromanage or babysit. So, I mean, I do kind of recruit agents, so it might be a good fit. If it isn't, I'll tell you as much. I'm just trying to think of some alternatives that would be good. I don't want to send you necessarily to a captive company or one of these MLMs that put you at a low compensation and don't ever train you, right? So there's that too to worry about. Michael, why are you stuck with 6-month-old leads? We have new leads hit our CRM every minute. Troy, hi Kevin. I have a knack of gaining people's trust easily, but the issue is that most assume a greater friendship. Uh-oh. So it's more than just a little rapport building. How do I reconcile that and still maintain a good rapport with my clients? So the issue is that I assume okay, wait a minute. You're assuming a greater friendship. They're not? Is that what you're saying? That's what I'm going to answer this as. Here's the thing, guys. One of the things that I found myself doing, and my mom, because she didn't have a husband, I got to listen to my mom every night, come home and tell me about her day at work. She's a nurse, and she's telling me all the drama at work and all of her patients and the nurses and all this stuff. And I just sat there and listened. And it used to annoy me as I became a teenager, but thank God, God works in mysterious ways. This helped me understand the power of listening, and this is what really good salespeople do. They listen well. I've always been a kind of person that lets people talk a lot if that's what they want to do. I'm very patient. I don't feel the need to let my feelings be known. I just would rather listen. I find people interesting. However, this gets you in trouble when you're with a senior that hasn't talked to a real person in 2 weeks and they want to tell you about their life story when you're there to sell them a policy. But what I found is as I got comfortable and I started ramping up my production and activity, and that's really the linchpin here, is that I was a little bit more, maybe it was after I had a couple kids too, and I found myself being a little bit more to the point. I would go in, do a little small talk, and I would lead the conversation and get going and say, great, now that I know you a little bit, and this is like 30 seconds to a minute later, let me tell you a little bit about myself and why I'm here. So I took the role of more of a clinical doctor, like a doc that comes in with little bedside manner. I wasn't a jerk to my clients, and I small talked a little with them, but I got the business. And I found they really appreciated that because, some people like to talk, but they know they're talkers and they like to be told to stop talking in a sense, and they like to get their goals accomplished too. So maybe you just need to be a little bit more assertive and understand rapport is, if anything can go or anything can be reduced, it's rapport. You need a lot less of it than you think. For me, face-to-face, a good 30 to 60 seconds is all you need. Probably over the phone, a good 2 minutes. But you got to know how to establish it really quickly and how to connect fast. That's the critical thing. But you don't need much more than that. Okay. I just got my life and health license. How do I write with multiple carriers? Find the agency you want to work with. Do your due diligence. When you find one that's a good fit for you that aligns with your goals, they'll tell you what to do as far as which carriers to go with. But you got to go through an agency. You don't really go direct to carriers anymore. The way the hierarchical system works with selling insurance is you got to go through an agency. So you got to find a good agency. Richard, hey, what's the commission for new agents? 100% to 110% of the annual premium for first day full coverage products, and then 60 to 70% for guaranteed issue products. These are people in really bad shape that are otherwise uninsurable. The companies pay less for everybody, including myself, and to lower their cost of insuring them. Once an agent does 50 policies with me, we raise their commissions 10% across the board. So it's 70 to 80% for guaranteed issue and 110 to 120% if you're experienced. Now, if you come to me with some kind of level of success in the business, then we'll just start you at those experience levels. And then beyond that, if you want to produce and you want to really get into production, we have commission levels up to 130% for select carriers and up to 135 to 140% if you get into the agency building side of the business, which I fully support. I just don't like ram it down your throat. You don't hear it from me every second of the day, because I think you need to sell successfully first before you get into recruiting. So there's a process to it. Door-to-door, I like door-to-door. I think it works well. In fact, I think if you're selling final expense, you should be doing some level of door knocking of your leads along with appointment setting. I don't think even door knocking is negotiable. You should absolutely do it if you're a face-to-face agent. There are just some people, guys, ladies and gentlemen, this day and age, they are not going to answer the phone, no matter who's calling. But they'll answer the door, and they'll treat you with a little bit more respect, too, in the process. Every New York City story. Marcus, when did you find your niche for final expense, and what made you decide to hone in on a particular product? Marcus, I just got lucky, man. I was desperate for a job, and nobody was hiring. And what do you do when you can't find a job, nobody's hiring? You look at selling insurance. And I just got lucky. I was doing some research online. I came across the insurance forums. I stumbled across final expense. I saw an agent named John Duggar with his post about how he was writing a lot of policies with 15 direct mail leads a week. And I said, well, hell, that sounds like my kind of thing. It's not a complicated product. It's activity driven. Why wouldn't I do this, right? So I jumped all into it and struggled. I failed out after about 12 months, came back after a 6 or 8 week delay. I worked for Aramark, and I saw how horrible it was working for the man, that I got back in the final expense after failing, realizing that I was squandering an awesome opportunity. And I kind of just stuck with it. I mean, I knew it, and there was times I wanted to do Medicare, but it distracted me, so I stuck with what I know, and I focused on it. And then I got to the kind of the crossroads where I was like, I was either going to do Medicare and start incorporating that into my practice, or I was going to build an agency. And I like the idea of building an agency better because I like training. I love working with agents. I didn't know at the time I did, but I love it. I like it better than selling. It's fun helping people grow and create a great income, to free themselves from working for somebody, to create their own businesses. It's just a lot of fun. So that's kind of the arc of my career. And I kind of just figured this stuff out along the way. You know, it's like, I guess it was good that I only did final expense, because every time I tried to do something else, it was a big distraction for me. All right. Thanks for answering my question. You got it. No problem. You're welcome. I've been training with AIL for 2 months. Haven't met with that FEG yet, but I'm interested in learning more. Yep, do your due diligence. My license organization, hey, Susanna, is in Louisiana. I know I can sell in Texas, but also not sure of other states. Would I need to license in several other states for this to become a worthwhile? No, not necessarily. It depends on if you're doing telesales or final expense face-to-face. If you're doing face-to-face, your state and your local area within an hour range is probably just fine for full-time effort. For telesales, it largely depends on what leads you're using, but in most cases, 1 or 2 states is plenty for telesales. Is it required to get certified for final expense before I start selling? Yes, you got to get your life insurance license at a minimum, then get appointed, then you can sell. How was final expense in the Philly area? Just fine. I've known agents that work Philly. I think they do just fine. They work in and around Philly as well, so I don't see any problems. What's your thoughts on door knocking Medicare savings leads? I don't know what a Medicare savings lead is. Is it... I don't know what you're talking about. I guess it depends on the type of Medicare you're selling. I would be okay with Medicare supplements. I'd be a little less, I'd be more concerned if you were leading with Medicare Advantage, if that was your intent to make the sale, because, well, I don't really know. I'm trying to think. I'm definitely not cold calling. As far as the direct mail leads go, I don't know. I'm probably speaking out of terms because I don't know what a Medicare savings lead is. You'll have to kind of explain it to me. Herschel Walker for Senate. Go Dogs. Oh, I was thinking Herschel like from Walking Dead. That's why I laughed. My wife and I are watching Walking Dead again. So, Herschel. Advantage One Brokers. is taking a lot of FFL agents and whole agencies. Why? Are you part of Advantage One? This is the talk on the street about this with FFL. I don't know anything about this, but then today I start talking with a couple of people, and then I start saying this and that about this and that. I don't know nothing. I'm not part of Advantage One, not part of FFL. I'm completely separate as far as my operation. I'm kind of a lone ranger in my business. So yeah, I don't know much about them, except that I heard they left FFL. Hey Dave, with your Medicare lead program, are the leads face-to-face or phone sales? Either or is fine. And if they are phone sales, how many states should you be licensed in? Just one. Just one's fine. I think so. Hey Greg, David, what is your personal mix of business between final expense and Med Advantage and SUP as a percentage? Like as a producer, I don't produce anymore. I'm neck deep in, recruiting and training agents at this point in my career. So I don't go out and do full-time sales or part-time for that matter. But when I was in the field, it was 100% final expense. We started doing Medicare maybe 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. Right now, Medicare is probably 10 to 20% of my income. The rest is mostly final expense with a in the override side at least, which is a good indicator for production. With final expense being the rest, a small amount being annuities. But my opinion is, give me 5 more years, Medicare will probably be 30 to 40% of it, just with the renewal side swinging in. Again, we're taking a loss for the first year or two on overrides to invest in the agent's leads. And that's a long play for us. So once that's overcome, it should be a very significant portion. Jane, when you mentioned Medicare, and then supplements, we don't really do a lot of supplements. We do a little bit of it, but our strategy is a special election period one, so we're going after low-income clients. So it just so happens we don't do a lot of supplements. Probably less than 10% is going to be supplements of the Medicare mix. Jane, when you mentioned Medicare, you're talking about MedSups and Medicare Advantage. Yeah, in our case, mostly Medicare Advantage. We, just like we talked about Focus earlier, we picked the Medicare Advantage because a lot of our strategy was incorporating Medicare into our final expense agents, because one of the long-term issues with final expense, and this is something I'm talking to anybody out there who's doing final expense, you're successful right now, you're going to hit a point in your life, I did too, where you get kind of burnt out. To go out there and start at zero every year is a grind. And you might get to a point in your life where you have kids and a spouse and you want to spend time with them and not work all the time. And that's part of the reason I went into agency building, because I love working. I love being out in the field and doing things, but I recognized, I think at 30, that I probably wouldn't always want to do this. And so that's when I diversified my effort into agency building. But not everybody wants to get in the adult babysitting business. That's sometimes what people refer to as recruiting agents. And doing Medicare is a good strategy. But anyways, for us, it was an easier transition to bring agents from final expense and Medicare Advantage than Medicare supplements, because the clients with Medicare Advantage are more in line economically and from the same kind of dispositions of the client that we're used to as final expense than MedSups. MedSups is kind of a different buyer than Medicare Advantage. And so it's just an easier transition. That's our primary strategy, the primary reason why. I think Medicare supplements are probably better in some ways as a product, but not everybody's going to have the money to spend on the premium. So Medicare Advantage is going to be a good option for a lot. So in essence, it's just easier for us to recruit to, is kind of what it comes to. What exactly do I have to do to sell final expense with you Telesales? Reach out to me at davidduford.com/contact. You also may want to spend some time at davidduford.com/FAQ, John. Appreciate the reaching out. And just check out the FAQ section. Read up how it works with me. Make sure it's a good idea. Again, I talk about a lot about due diligence. That page is kind of designed to be a due diligence type of thing to help you figure for yourself if it's a good fit or not. Then join a Q&A, and then we can talk one-on-one about proceeding. David, what type of training do you offer agents onboarding with your company? In a nutshell, any kind of training that you would find valuable. So it's different. There's different versions or kinds of training. For example, we have training for, let's see, group training, like Zoom training. We do that for 6 hours a week with different topics on script development, mock presentations, real-life sales call reviews, and then carrier training, how to pick the best carriers, how to underwrite, etc. We do Q&A calls to answer any oddball questions you might have. We've got a lot of self-study resources, scripts you can read and rehearse, resources to familiarize yourself with, video modules that walk you through the script, live sales calls that you can review on your own time. I've also got a 24/7 live streaming program that you can listen to. That's an incorporation of all my training I've done. And that it's just like listening to me do a training, because it is a training that was just done in the past, and probably more than I'm and then a cheat sheet for final expense that will help you identify the best underwriting options for your clients by specific condition. We're really like hardcore when it comes to training. It makes or breaks agents, I believe, and all of this is designed to be digested in a 2 to 3 week period before you go sell. Not to mention, there's the opportunity to reach out to me. I've got my cell phone. You can call or text me. I usually get back within the hour in case I'm doing a live stream that lasts a long time. Or you can just email me, and I'll respond in 24 hours if it's less urgent. So again, I don't have any bad reviews. Go look at David Duford reviews, David Duford scams on YouTube, on Google. You won't find anything because I do what I say I'm going to do. I've been doing this since 2013. And training is a big portion of that. And if I didn't, then I would be called out. I'm just going to keep going here. Everybody left. I don't know where everybody went. Let's see where my wife went. We will be about 5 minutes before we get to your house. I don't know who the hell is supposed to be at 5:38. Huh? Oh, somebody else. Okay, whatever. Well, I'm here. I'm stuck by myself, so I might as well keep going with the guys. All right. Would you recommend a solution for lead availability for an agent who is struggling to buy leads? You could look into my seminar marketing strategy. Shameless plug. Go to davidduford.com/store. Look for the seminar marketing strategy. In essence, what we teach you to do is run seminars in senior living facilities. They cost very much little to nothing, and they can generate really high quality leads. The cost or the downside is you got to speak in front of a group of people, but if you're okay with that, it's not a downside at all. I did it like 100 times between 2015 and 16, made a good bit of money doing it, turned it into a program that teaches agents to do that. That's something that does work if you do enough seminars. And I had an agent today report back, and he said that he's approached 3 different ones. Only one of them gave him kind of pushback due to COVID. The other 2 were happy to have him, so no resistance whatsoever. Let's see here. Why is DUI a big one with life agents? Yeah, sure is, man. Can you blame them? Well, most of these DUIs happen before they get in the life insurance business. So, well, you know, hey, life is life, right? You know, we all do things and say things we wish we could take back, and you know, we make mistakes. You know, nobody here is perfect, and I think for now, most of these carriers are forgiving if you're honest and transparent about it. Same with the states too. Is there solve the triangle? Is there a AIG guaranteed issue for final expense? What's the average commission? Yeah, there is. It's 70% for new agents with me and 80% with experienced agents. Good product, face-to-face especially. Jason. I was recently licensed March this year. I was selling final expense remotely for the past 4 months. I recently got my AHIP. I would like to sell Medicare. Assurance, I don't know if Assurance is a good place to learn, but I think it could be if you didn't want to put your money into leads. You know, I think what we do is good. We got great trainers, 10 plus years experience in the business, plenty of success stories, you know, but it's not right for everybody because you got to buy leads, of course. So it could be, again, it just depends on who's training you and how the support network is, you know, and that can vary wildly. So basically stay where I'm at and reach out more. Yes, there you go. Who do you recommend for live transfer leads? Not really anybody. Sorry. It's just there's not really a lot of options right now. We're beta testing some TV lead vendors, some digital transfers, and then some live transfers from direct mail cards. But I don't have a source yet that I can say reliably works well. Rapport versus friendship can be a huge deal breaker. Yeah. Again, what's the purpose of rapport, guys? What I teach my agents is the purpose of rapport is just to break the ice. It's not to create a new best friend. It's just to get them comfortable with you. One of the best metrics that you can use to build rapport is to get the person to laugh. If I can make Mildred laugh a little bit about something goofy, and I'm 30 seconds in, I'm going now. I'm into the introduction. I'm into the pre-qualification stage. I don't need to wait any longer. 'Cause somebody who laughs shows their vulnerability. It shows that they're comfortable. If they're really uptight and they don't like you being there and they're uncomfortable, they're not gonna laugh. They may, do that kind of thing, a little giggle. But if they're laughing like, that's funny, haha, they're comfortable with you. You can go now. Yes, and go through your presentation. Like they assume I'm their buddy, like we're going to hang out. Yeah, Troy, you're probably instigating the rapport building to when I've seen agents do this, it's because they don't know when enough is enough. Okay, Troy, there's an agent in Florida, a real nice guy, same situation, real very easy conversationalist. And what Lee did, he would sit down and talk 15 minutes with people, and he had the opportunity to then transition to the next phase of the presentation, but he was so curious in the people, he would just ask more questions. And what questions do is elicit a response and engagement. So what you have to understand in rapport building is you just want to get them comfortable with you. And then once you recognize that, then you got to lead the charge to transition to the next stage. I would put money on it is that you're such a likable person, and what you're saying is leading the conversation on further, that you're kind of just shooting yourself in the foot. So you could probably shorten it down to 2 minutes. Try 2 minutes of that and then go. And think about it as you're in that middle of that section. Ask yourself, what are you asking that's causing this to proceed? It's probably something you're doing. That's how it was with me and how it is with a lot of people. Put it on yourself and say, I tend to get carried away. Let's get to business. Yeah, that too. I'm sorry, I tend to talk about the lot. Let me kind of get back to what we're talking about. Steve Abrams, do you know anything about ethos? Not much. I don't really know much about them. Ken Tex, what is involved for the producer after a policy is sold in regards to dealing with the client and having to do paperwork? It depends on what you're doing. In final expense, your paperwork should all be done. There's very little for you to do because it was electronically submitted online, or you verbally called it in and they typed it up over the phone, so it should be completely done. Same thing with Medicare. There's very little you do after the call is done. That's why we call it a one-call close. Now, if you're in traditional life sales, there is going to be some gopher work, and you have to go back and forth, get APSs set up, get information extra from the client, go back and forth, keep them happy and getting their patience in check, because sometimes that can take a long time. But with final expense in Medicare, it's very little. Hey, Joe, what we have changed from commission to hourly talk time pay? What do you think? Well, what Charlie Munger said, show me the pay plan and I'll show you the, I don't remember what he said. It said something like that. Like, how are you incentivized? To me, I want my agents incentivized by making sales, not talking to people. Now, talking to people is correlated to making sales, of course, but who's to say what they're talking about is going to produce a sale, right? Ultimately, you'll fire the guy if they're not making sales, right? But I think the most productive agents on your team that want to make a lot of money are going to want to connect their sales opportunities with making sales, not talking to Mildred. Or you might be like Troy and in a situation where, they're wanting to build this unduly level of rapport for what? Hopefully a sale, but not necessarily on that comp schedule. Greg, don't chargebacks from downline agents pose a pretty big risk to you as an agency upline? They can, depending on how you recruit and with what products you recruit them with. What is your largest amount of chargebacks? I haven't had a big hit in years because I stopped hiring deadbeats. There is an agent that I knew it, man. The guy, man, I knew he was bad. No, there's 2 times did this. 2 times. Guy had a record. When I say record, he mismanaged funds. It was all public. I ignored it because I'm a half glass full guy. And he charged me back with, between 2 companies, $20,000, right? I had another gentleman locally here who was a good guy. I forced myself to see potential, and I thought there was, because I'm an open, I'm a half glass full guy. But he's a bouncer. He just bouncer in a sense. He just bounces around from one agency to another, and he doesn't ever get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and he never experienced that growth that was necessary to get him success. He would have success, run into some frustration, and look for the grass is greener on the other side, and then jump around. and he left me with $15,000 in debt. Thankfully, that happened at a point in my life where I was able to absorb it, so it wasn't a big deal. But that's been the biggest hits that I've gotten. I haven't really, knock on wood, gotten really big hits like I used to because I don't hire agents who can't buy leads, and I hire quality of people more than anything else. So that would be your lesson in the recruiting game because that is the biggest risk. I talked to an agent once with a certain IMO that pushes a high-priced product. I'll let you decide who I'm talking about. This guy said he had $70,000 in chargeback with a company that starts with an A. And it was roll-up debt. Now, there may have been some white-collar crime where people are getting ripped off and fake apps are being done. I don't know. But this is the problem when you run an agency through a high-priced carrier that's easily replaced, okay? You will lose business, and it ain't pretty, okay? So what's the solution? Hire good people that are, that have a level of decency in them, that they keep their responsibilities. They can invest money into buying leads, make sure your spreads as an agency are high enough to absorb the eventual chargeback you're going to eat. You know how they say you got to socialize the profits? You've got to socialize the risk of loss and have a spread that's high enough to make the upside potential because well enough worth it. Because if you're recruiting agents and you're taking a 5% cut, but you're at 120% contract, let's say, you're taking on a risk of 120% chargeback risk for a 5% upside. That's dangerous on an unproven agent who's not done any business with you, right? That you don't know their true character. In action, words mean nothing. In action means everything. And that's too much of a risk for a new agent for me. I would, as an agency owner, take a 20 to 30%. That's what my recommendation would be, 20 to 30% override. And as that agent proves themselves and they're trained up, give them more upside potential. Take a smaller cut because they've earned it. They've proven themselves. They've written good business, and they're still with you. That's generally my recommendation, agency building, as far as the pay structure goes. I'm with a company, Thor says, that only offers AIG guaranteed issue whole life in Washington State. Wow, okay. Do you have a carrier for guarantee? No. Gerber, actually Thor would be the only one, but you can't do Great Western get GI there. It's just not available. Yeah, Joe, it's not available up in, GTL is. I think GTL is in Washington. That is another one to pick up for sure. Cannot door knock Medicare Advantage of Part D, it's illegal. Yeah, exactly. I'm in Eastern time zone looking to do telesales. Need to make calls outside of business hours. Was thinking PST like you mentioned, realistically successful. Sure, yeah, absolutely. No, yeah, 100%. Call into California from the time you get off to 11 o'clock at night, 6 days a week. Put in the hours part-time. It's going to suck. You're going to not be able to do things. I'd work all day Saturday too. Save the money that you make and then bankroll yourself to where you can go full-time. How do I get your underwriting guide? Work with me. For agents that work with me, you get it. If you work with me and you don't got it, email me, I'll send it to you. Steve, hey Steve, how did you find it hard to get started once you stopped? Any tips for someone looking to jump back in when they didn't have significant success? What really did it for me is working for Aramark was my first. I have a really weird career. Like I've always run a business. I got out of college from Boston University. I went home. I started my personal training business shortly after I came home. And between 2012 and 2013, it was the only year I've been employed by somebody. So take it for what it's worth. I've always been a lone wolf kind of guy. I've always been an entrepreneur, real stubborn, bad employee type. And when I went and had my first real job working for Aramark, the way I remember it is I looked at everybody and how miserable they were running a job that they hate, dealing with all the BS, working long hours for a crappy wage, but none of them had the balls to take a chance on themselves. I remember one gentleman would complain about, driving the truck and doing his thing. And he would sit there and dream about, man, I'd love to work for TVA, which is Tennessee Valley Authority, the federal employer. They pay well, great benefits and all that stuff, as opposed to this like back-breaking 80-hour-a-week job he had. And I remember like 4 years later, I was running the roads down in Georgia, and I saw the guy in his truck still working for Aramark, and I just shook my head and I thought, what, to live in quiet desperation like this, what, how sad, you know? And for me, once I saw this, and I saw this was my future if I stayed here, to be out of control of my own destiny, I couldn't stand it. And it was an important turning point in my life, because it was a part where I could mature. You know, I looked around and I saw the opportunity I left. And this is kind of my advice to you, Steve. You know, what are your other options, man? You're going to go work for somebody, make somebody else rich? You're going to be disappointed and dissatisfied with your life, knowing that there's this potential in you that you'll never realize, or that you could miss out on? Do you know how many men hit their 40s and 50s and 60s and think this way? It's sad. Where that opportunity passed them by. Don't live that life of regret. Go out in the blaze of glory. At least you can tell your kids you tried. You didn't stand around and watch other people do what you could have done had you had the guts to do it. So I kind of think in that kind of way. I don't know if it motivates you, it motivates me. You know, I look at myself as, you know, I really have always thought deep down I am destined for success. Like, it's there, it's meant for me. Maybe it's because I've had the privilege of having a father, an uncle, and a grandfather as entrepreneurs or starting up companies. So it's like, it's just a part of my blood. It is who I am. And I owe it to the men in my life that sacrificed and gave us the lifestyle we had and gave us the opportunities. I owe it to continue that. So, I mean, this is the kind of stuff I tell myself. So I don't know if it helps you, but you're meant for it. And it's a tragedy to let that opportunity go to waste, especially for people who have the capability. And there's a lot more people who do that ever do anything. Andrew. Oh man, I'm way behind. Do you have a well-known term or whole life insurance you work with? I've been coming across their children in their 30s, 40s, 50s who are looking for 20 and 30-year terms. Yeah, Protective Life, Mutual of Omaha, Foresters. These are all ones you can definitely use. Probably some I'm forgetting. That's probably what I would pick up, one of those three. Do you know about the Advantage One brokers? No, until today I didn't. I was talking to a few people who were telling me about what's going on there, and I understand the kind of the background there and what's going on. So, but beyond that, I don't know much else. Oh yeah, by the way, thank you for all the likes. If you haven't liked this video yet, please do it. It shares it with all sorts of insurance agents. It tells YouTube when there's a lot of likes to a video to display this video to other agents who are in the insurance business that look for insurance sales content. So if you've joined and you haven't hit the like button, please do. I'd love it if you do. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Dave is a scam. I do work with AIG Guaranteed Issue. Don't listen to John. I'm not a scam. Gotta appreciate the dedication. You're welcome, PD. Hi, David. How much commission do you make on a final expense sale? Like as an agent or as an agency? As an agent, if you're new, around 100% average, experience around 110% average, give or take. As far as overrides, personally, I mean, it's probably in the range of 20 to 40% on a new agent. And then on an experienced agent, probably 20 to 30%, give or take. 10 to 30% really, it just depends on the carriers. And then as the agency, as I recruit agencies or I have a really top producer, that margin is going to be a little thinner. But I make up for that thinner margin with volume. Plus, if I'm doing that, it's because I've established a relationship with them, they've written good business, and I don't mind extending more commission to them. My strategy has always been, if I've got a great relationship with a good producer, we know, like, and trust each other, I want them to have as much commission as I can give them, because I'll make the money up in the long term on a smaller override. But I think relationships are what's not only more profitable for this business, but certainly more enjoyable. I have drunk on sales, telesales. What? You are drunk right now? What company are you in? My own. It's called Duford Insurance Group. Yeah, John is with me. Don't embarrass me, John. Jeez. Do you think John Jay can make Mildred laugh? Man, he makes a lot of people laugh. They're laughing with him and at him. In case you think I'm being mean, ladies and gentlemen, John deserves it. He's in my agency. He sets himself up for the perfect kicking bag, punching bag. and he's fun, and he takes it all in stride, so it's all fun. It's all good. James, what kind of tech equipment do you need to get started? Yeah, iPad Pro, laptop is fine. If you're doing dials, a headset with a good mic, I prefer a live connection to your internet and a live connection to your headset. Or you could just dial off your phone. This is not a tech-heavy business. It can be if you really want it to, but it's unnecessary. Mildred would have caught on to the smooth criminal reference immediately, probably. Mildred isn't as much of a dork as I am. Greg, I think I've sold 1 or 2 real final expense policies in 20 years. I have about 240 existing Med Advantage and SUPs. I enjoy Medicare since I get referrals. Yeah, absolutely. Medicare is way more referable than final expense. Final expense is just so grim. It's like, hey, guess who I got my death insurance from? Oh, yeah, really? Wow, you don't get a lot of referrals in my experience. Multiple DWIs over lifetime disqualified from getting a license, all misdemeanors. Call up the DOI and ask them and kind of see what they say. If it's been a good while since they've happened, probably is fine. But I don't know. That's getting into that dicey zone that it's hard for me to answer with any level of certainty. Sorry. I'll email you later. Sure thing. Thank you. Yeah, I'd love to have you. Nice sense of humor going a long way. Sure does. Andrew, really appreciate these videos and Q&As. You got it. Do you recommend any outfit for Medicare supplement phone sales? MedicareAgentTraining.com, Christopher Westfall. It's kind of like me, but on the Medicare supplement side. He's got a lot of great training. He's been doing it forever. He's very successful, and he takes training agents seriously. He makes so much money. I don't know why he even trains agents other than he must enjoy it. That's what I would do if I was exclusively looking at med subs. Hey, Kevin, what's going on? Your thumbnails are getting the better for you tonight. It happens to the best of us. Crystal, hey, how about signing up with a FMO for remote and then going independent in 6 months? Sure. Waste of time or better to try to do yourself for AEP? Oh, for AEP, it's such an individual thing. It's just hard to say. I think it comes down to what level of comfort do you have in investing in leads, and how much do you really value a lot of intense hands-on training. Sometimes the captive call centers can do a good job of just getting you to being sales ready and then leaving them after AEP is over to then go independent. It's totally fine. Just don't expect to make a lot of money unless you just sell a bunch of policies. What is the cost of online leads now? If you're doing them yourself, $8 to $12 is the average on Facebook I've seen. If you're buying them from somebody, $20 to $25. About how much money would a new agent expect to spend on leads per month? I've never had to purchase leads before. I'm not sure. Sure, Jason. $1,500 to $2,000 a week part-time, and then $2,000 to $3,000 a week is kind of starting for full-time. That all can scale up a lot higher. I talked to a guy today who's doing $2,000 a week, but he works his way up to it. How many agents do you have working for you? 150 to 200 between final expense, Medicare, and annuities that are actively producing. I've recruited over 2,500, but the truth is, like, it's who's selling stuff that matters, not who's not. Crystal. You don't hire people that can't buy leads. That's why you told me to get a job instead of this, right? Yeah, even if I have only helped 30 people, at least I did get, yeah, 100%. And you could save that money from what you did and the experience you accumulated to then go independent if that's ultimately your goal. But yeah, there's no reason in joining an agency, and it's nothing personal, please don't take it that way, for you or anybody else. I just don't want to recruit you on false pretenses. You have to have leads to work in my agency because we're just a strategy that teaches you how to do it. Go down swinging, that's right, it's the only way to go. What is FEG? Freedom, I don't know what it is, equity group, yeah. Yep, that's right. You're welcome, Steve. Hope that helped. If spending $400 to $500 on leads per week, how much income should be expected? It's going to depend on the carriers you're writing, of course, but if you do the math, I think $800 to $1,000 a week is possible. More, sure. Less, maybe. And that's cash flow. A little bit more once you get to months 10, 11, 12, where you're getting as earned commission renewals, maybe closer to $1,200 to $1,500, but that's going to take a year to get to. Westfall has a lot of good content, definitely. Is a phone home interview required for final expense? If you're doing telesales, in most cases, yes. If you're doing it in the home, some cases yes, some cases no. Sometimes you just submit the app to get a decision. Dave, I do life, Medicare, and U65 health. May I ask if there's going to be an inbound MAPD or fax program for the fall? I don't have it for MAPD, and we're working on something beta testing for final expense, unfortunately. Not ready to roll that out yet. Getting to the end here. My brain is fried. How to sell referrals to insurance agents. How to sell referrals for insurance agents, like you getting referrals, or how to sell a referral you get to somebody else. I'm assuming you mean how to get referrals. Do a search for David Duford, Claude Whitaker, and watch that video that references referrals. That's the best referral training I've ever seen. In fact, if you go to Amazon and put Claude Whitaker in, I think it's the sales positioning or sales presentation training. The whole thing's really about referrals. And sales prospecting, that's what it is. Buy that book. It's like $4 or $5. It's the best referral training I've ever seen. For the record, I've never really done a lot of referral training or referrals in my business because I've been buried in leads for so long. And doing referrals when you've got leads all day long, you don't feel the need or the urgency to do it. David, serious question. I don't like to dial, not on my cell. I have a list of leads for MAPD. I would like a dialer or telemarketer for cheap. Any real suggestions? Yeah, sure. Phoneburner.com, mojo.com, salesdialers.com. There's plenty of dialers you can do that don't involve your phone if you'd rather not call that. Last call for questions before I'm wrapping it up. Gregory, after a couple years focusing on Medicare and ACA, I gross a little over 100K. Great, nice job. My only fear is the government will screw agents sooner or later. Yeah, that's a great fear to have. I mean, that is the, what is the word I'm looking for? The elephant in the room. If or when is Medicare going to be altered in such a way that it precludes our opportunity to sell? If you look at the political situation, this is my perspective. I don't think that the Republicans are going to win a presidency probably ever again. I don't think that over time that they're going to retain the House or the Senate. Like, we're talking like 10 to 20 years out. I just think that if you look at things, it's just not going to be good if you support the status quo, at least when it comes to something like Medicare. I think there's enough of an undercurrent to eventually replace the healthcare system that we got 10 years ago or so with something like a Medicare for all system. And the question that ultimately we have to ask ourselves is, when is this going to happen and how will this affect our business model? It could be the best thing ever. We could now have prospects to sell Medicare supplemental plans, not just people over 65 and disabled, but to everyone everywhere. Because it's likely the government-imposed system is not going to be something that's going to adequately cover, just like original Medicare isn't. I mean, there's a bunch of gaps in coverage, which is why Medicare Advantage exists, to better utilize those funds to provide better solutions. So it might be the best thing ever for us. However, we look at what happened with Obamacare and the ACA. Health insurance companies gradually and then suddenly eliminated commissions. People who built their entire businesses with six-figure renewals like what you have lost everything and had to start back from square zero. So ultimately, I don't have the answer. It concerns me. My strategy is to build this thing and maybe be gone and be done with the business in maybe 10 years is too young, but definitely 20 years. I think all bets are off the table about what to expect in the 2030s, you know, maybe late 2030s. That's kind of where my concern really lies. But right now, the thing right now that you have to deal with is there's a lot more people aging into the baby boomer market. They're a huge voting bloc. And I think something like Medicare, protecting Medicare and retirement, is a bipartisan issue. And that's good for us, because if a member of Congress votes to alter that in a negative fashion, then they'll vote the bum out, I would think, hopefully. But how that changes with the shifts that's going on in this country, I just don't know from a political standpoint long term. So make your money while you can, and get it while it's hot, because it really is right now. I think we've got a good 10, 20 years before I'm like seriously concerned. If you don't like the idea of that, then don't do it. Focus on Medicare, not Medicare. Focus on final expense. I don't see the government getting involved in that. It's not a political third rail, and it's not one to be politicized yet. Maybe getting involved in annuities. That might be an opportunity that's sustainable, although the financial planners and their lobbyists don't like some of these fixed index annuity products out there and are trying to legislate to get us out of the equation. So, but there's always going to be some kind of opportunity in this business, guys. Don't worry, there will be. Sometimes you do have to be like Madonna and reinvent yourself, and the times change. The key is to keep an open mind and be aware of these things, and this is why I do my YouTube channel, to keep you guys informed and thinking. And if things change, I'll let you know. What about direct mail leads? I love them. They're great for Medicare and final expense. I absolutely recommend them. Sean, I have a whole lot of qualified leads, but I don't know how to approach insurance agents and have them take some of my referrals. I don't know. There's always people looking for leads. Find one that will work them and split the commission with you. Cannot telemarket unsolicited MAPD or Part D illegal? Yep, correct. So should we have about 5,000 plus to start off? I think that's a good number to start off with. It could be as low as 3,000. I think that's fine, on a full-time basis, or willingness to invest in. Thank you, Crystal. Chyla and Dave, really appreciate the time that you took to answer the questions. By the way, you look like a guy who gets caught in a lot of ankle locks and triangle chunks while rolling. Yeah, we're not big on the leg locks and the reaping the knee and the all that heel hooks and stuff. Like, we're old school at Chattanooga Jiu-Jitsu. We do the old stuff, collar chokes, triangles, arm bars, no omoplatas, no berimbolo rolls. Is that what that is? I don't even know. We just keep it simple, man. It's all about white belt jiu-jitsu stuff. That's my theory in life, so works pretty well. Annie is okay. Okay. I just learned who Cali Muscle, this must be the buzz in the social media world. I don't know who Advantage One Brokers is. I do know who they are now because you guys keep reminding me. And I had some talks with some people tonight that kind of give me the insight. So I just go for their jaw or liver. Yeah. Just like, you remember Boss Rutan, John? Remember early days of MMA? He was Mr. Liver Shot. Those are the good old days. John, I'm on your site now. I clicked on to become an agent. Don't see a way to join. I'm newly licensed. You got to submit your information into that pop-up that says, put your email here and then we'll give it to you. I'm very aggressive about getting your email so I can spam you to death. So if you don't like the spam, just unsubscribe. It's okay. Won't hurt my feelings. But just put some kind of email in there. Put John's email in there and then you can get access to it. Oh, yeah, you must like Floyd Mayweather, Mr. Fundamentals. He's probably the best boxer to ever live. David, I've been watching you for quite a while now. I've been blessed to have found you on YouTube. Thank you. I'm in your Facebook group. I have a Facebook group. Wait a minute, I have a Facebook group? You mean my group me? Thank you, I appreciate the nice words, but do I have a face? Because I haven't been on Facebook in my group in like years. So I'm learning stuff now I didn't realize. Okay. Justin likes the spam. Thank you. LOL, I also have a Series 6, 63, 65 investment are way too much BS. Yeah, you're guilty until proven innocent in the SEC's eyes. Record keeping and stress. Government always messing with the health. Yep, only grows $20K after fees, for sure. What are the next steps to build an agency, Arnetta? Figure out what your niche is. Figure out how to find agents that would be a good match for your agency. And figure out your messaging. What is your unique selling proposition? What are you going to do differently than another agency is going to do? One of the best strategies is to, beyond figuring out what your niche is go all in on training and support and really follow through on that, because that's what people desperately need. And there's not any sort of, I don't have a corner on the market of, hey, join my agency if you want to, learn what you're doing. There's I have a small smidgen of the entirety. So it's likely you can bring people in this business, and if you train them well and support them, they'll be loyal. They're fun to do business with. You'll make a lot of money. You won't do this churn and burn thing that's so common in this business. He's a fake champ. But now, why is Floyd Mayweather a fake champ? He won. Ben, you have so many ads on your website that it's sometimes hard to read the articles. Just to let you know. Sorry, Ben. Yeah, no, I know. What can I say, man? I'm at the point where, you know, I'm just monetizing it. I'm trying to grab every last penny I can. And if you know where exactly what's annoying to read about it, I kind of watch it from a macro standpoint, and like how much time people are on the page and how many pages people are using. It hasn't really shifted much since we monetized it, so I appreciate the feedback. But if it's a growing problem, then yeah, I'll probably change it somehow. Will you be watching Paul versus Woodley? No, probably not. No, I don't watch the UFC. You know what I like watching, guys? If you want to watch real good content for fights, MMA, Street Beefs. Street Beefs is the best. It's a bunch of amateurs that get in there and beat each other up. It's great. It's not like a high-level tactical, you know, UFC fight. It's just people duking it out. It's a lot of fun. What does it take to be a successful telesales agent? You've got to have the capacity, I think, to sit down and call for 10 hours a day. You've got to follow a script and be able to not just read it, but perform it like a masterful actor on stage. You've got to be willing to and be effective at rebuttaling objections. And you've got to buy a ton of leads and be willing to dial and dial and dial. That's really the fundamentals. Telesales is different predominantly because it requires a level of performance that's more necessary than face-to-face. I can walk in and do my bit right now like I'm talking with you guys and sell like this, I do fine. But if I'm on the phone, I've got to get my energy up and I got to say, hey, what's going on? Dave Duford here. I'm calling you about that information you requested on our final expense program. You said your favorite hobby was fishing. You know, you got to have your energy really jazzed up because you got to capture people's attention and make sure that they're paying attention to you. Or you really got to hone in on that kind of, you know, I'm an authority figure. Hey, I'm calling you because you requested this information. My job is to help you out. But you've got to really perform it is kind of what I'm trying to say here. It's weird. That's the biggest difference with telesales. And some people can get into that kind of character a lot more naturally and easy. But some people just like, they don't get it and they really struggle. And it's all about tonality more so and your pacing and all that stuff. Less so with face-to-face. It's really easier for agents, frankly, if I can be frank with you, to have them be successful at face-to-face in telesales. And I think that's an industry-wide issue. That's why one of the agencies mentioned here that's really big and growing does not really incorporate a telesales avenue because they know face-to-face works a lot more consistently. What, to forget Tito, yeah, right, I love tank fights, yeah. How do I generate Medicare leads? Buy them from a direct mail office or provider is probably the best thing to do. You can self-generate your own on Facebook. Maybe buy a course that will teach you how. Those are some ideas. Do seminars. Sit at a booth at Walmart. Oh my God, sitting for 10 hours a day seems like hell. Yeah, and that's part of the problem. Like, it seems easy because you think about, man, I get to sit down in front of the computer at my home in my underwear, right? But it's a grind, sitting down on the phone and just clicking call, doing your script over and over again. I prefer the road. Get me out in front of people. I want to see people in their environment. I want to see them face-to-face. I was always more effective as a face-to-face agent, personally. I've done both, but I like face-to-face better. Bragging about income and recruiting instead of helping. Yeah, don't do that. I mean, you can do that. You'll get people who are attracted to that stuff, but as vapid as that strategy is, that's kind of what you'll attract from the people who are attracted by just materialism and consumerism. And yeah, they're El Guapo, right? How do we find the best lead vendor, or what are the right question to ask before we buy? I would hit up other agents that are doing well and get their advice. That's probably the best strategy. Get on Facebook, go to some of these groups and say, hey, what vendors are working for you guys? And I would start there and kind of feel it out from there. or join my agency and I'll tell you what to do. If you work in a small area, does the sales ever just become stagnant? Not really. I work in Chattanooga, but I work predominantly rural and small town America. And I worked an 1.5 to 2 hour radius, but I never ran out of people to see. And I was working 80 direct mail leads a week at one point. If you were, oh, okay. Is there a course you recommend to get your own Facebook leads? Yes. Put in Duford, $2.50 into YouTube and watch the video I did with Bobby Villanueva. He's got a great course. It's very affordable. He knows what he's doing. Delta is probably face-to-face now. Could be. Any suggestion on a good read teaching overcoming objections? I mean, my content's pretty good. If you just put in Duford objections or Duford rebuttals, you'll see a bunch of videos. If you're into watching videos, you could do a Google search, Duford objections or davidduford.com objections, and I'm sure I got some articles too. Do you see significant returns with agents who set up their own Facebook ads? Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think I've gotten to the point where I don't recommend telesales agents to do Facebook vendor purchases from a third party. I recommend that they do it themselves because the cost has gotten out of whack. The quality control methods are not in place anymore like they used to be. And it's better just to do it yourself. And that lowers your cost, so you have a better ROI potential. Is 1.5 hours like the cutoff of how far you will drive? 1.5 hours, yeah. After about 2 hours, I'm like, dang, man, it's like 9, I'm done, and I'll get home at 11. What a grind, you know? So, but for me, it just, yeah. I liked working small town and rural markets personally. So I would do the drive because most agents are lazy and they'll complain, I don't want to work my zip code. I'm like, okay, fine. I'll go see the people who don't see any agents and they'll buy from me more often. It seemed to work. So, yeah, okay. All right, well, guys, I am at an hour and 51 minutes. I can't believe I did it. I've done calls all day, a Q&A call. My brain is fried. It's 6:50, and I am done. Please like this video if you haven't already. We're at 90 likes. Thank you so much for doing that. I really appreciate that. I hope you don't think I'm begging for it, but I am asking nicely. And it does help get this content out to people who really need it that otherwise wouldn't. So, yeah, John. That's what John's role in life is. He keeps the entertainment process going. Trust me. If you were in on some Zoom calls, this is just a sneak peek at the amount of interruptions and sly remarks that we get from Mr. John. So, yeah. All right, guys, so I will see you around. Thanks for being here. If you want to learn more about my agency, you know what to do by now, davidduford.com. Check it out. Reach out to me if you've got any questions. I read all my emails that you send me. And thank you for watching. I appreciate you. I hope you enjoyed this stuff, and we'll see you next time. See ya.